Testing? Good.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Been a lot here. Yeah, we got that fancy new time time machine there, or whatever that is. Rhyme? Is that what it is? Rhyme time.
Oh, I see, taking out my staples.
Okay.
Staples.
No, the color copy. Boy. Yeah.
Okay, we're live, just so
All right.
everyone knows.
Are we recording?
We are.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Village of Lanham Village Board meeting to order for Monday, November 11th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Please silence your phones, remove your headgear and stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call, we've got Lake,
Here.
Galatola Roby is excused. Newman, here, Moore is
She's online.
online.
She is online. Yep, here she says.
Rainier,
Here.
Summers,
Here.
and Yates is present. Statement of public notice.
Has been posted.
Thank you. Item 5, discussion and possible action on the reading, correction, and approval of the minutes from the 10/14/24 village board meeting. Did anyone have any comments on those?
Excuse me, thumbs up. Come on. That dry spot.
I would entertain a motion then to,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented of the village board meeting from 10/14/24.
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Can you all hear us okay out there?
Yeah, John.
Yeah, it's just never quite sure if it's loud enough. Okay, committee reports, finance and personnel. Thank you. Legislative is absent. We have an item on here later on for them. Parks, Rec, and Beautification.
I gave the trustees an update, but I'll read it out loud. The design for the Holiday Village Avenue banners has been approved. We're going to install them hopefully the day after Thanksgiving or thereabouts. I included a copy with your update so you can see them. We decided that ARPA funds were a good way to use ARPA funds was to buy radios for the police department. So we'll have more of an update on ARPA funds later, but that's on here. We also did get a new indoor Christmas tree. Our old one was many, many years old. So we got a pre-lit tree, ornaments, some outdoor wreaths for the village. We are going to be decorating the outdoor tree, the live tree that's outside, the indoor tree, and any exterior items on Friday, November 29th, which is Black Friday. So if you are not going out shopping, come help us decorate the village hall. We welcome any volunteers that want to help. Patrick will be again volunteering his bucket truck, right, Patrick, to help us reach the top of that tree, right, Patrick?
Yep.
All right. Discussions were made during the budget workshop to reopen bathrooms to maybe save money on porta-johns. I just want to keep that on the radar in case we decide to do that. We had the Halloween costume parade. That was a great success. It was well attended. We would like to thank the LBA, the Lions, the police, all the volunteers, and the community for their participation. Our next village event will be the Christmas tree lighting, which is on Friday, December 6th at 6 p.m. Again, the normal group of Land and Business Association, Lions, police, and volunteers will be having caroling, tree lighting, selfies with Santa, chili, mac and cheese, all provided by local businesses. We'd love to see everyone there. Village hall renovations are nearly complete. We have some touch-up painting to do, but BCI completed the aluminum soffit and fascia project. We have new LED lights out there, and hopefully I'm going to try to connect to those, Brenda, so that we can play with those and they change color. Yeah. And then we do have some park funds that I'm using to repair soffit and fascia on the outdoor pavilion, mostly just reattachment of some missing aluminum fascia on that. And then there is some rot on one of the dugout roofs that we're going to repair, and we are going to scrape and paint the bathroom doors, which are rusting currently. So that is all I have for beautification right now. Any questions?
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
Public safety. I don't know if Tina has anything or not.
Tina, do you have anything? You can unmute and we'll hear you. Nope, she says no.
Nope. Okay, thank you. Public Works, Recycling and Sewer, Jerry.
Well, we're making good progress on the water lateral on Good Hope Road. We're finally into the native rock. But the contractor brought in a rock trencher, and that's going real well. It's really been making good progress. I would say they're ahead of schedule, because what they've done is, while the rock saw is working, they dropped back and put in laterals and hydrant connections. So they were gonna do that after the water main was done. So that's all going quite well. The weather stays like it is, we'll get the paving done and be in good shape. I attended a meeting at Waukesha County and Department of Public Works. They're quite concerned. They have about a $5 million shortfall. We understand what that's like. Of course, they were hoping for the sales tax, but they tabled that again now. So they warned us that they've been getting rid of staff, including in the sheriff's department. And you won't probably see, if it doesn't go ahead, you probably won't see as much right away cutting of grass and weeds. And even for the people here on Main Street, somewhat of the snow plowing is gonna be somewhat less. Don't have any money. We did pretty good, I thought, on our code enforcement things. We made good progress. I don't know if anybody's noticed the Davy Dronin project property lately, but it even got painted, which has only been about 10 years. So that's going quite well. One thing we're going to have to discuss here in the near future, and I'm thinking we should borrow some money after we do some discussions here. But we have the infrastructure planning for Bonnie Lane, because as you know, we've been putting that off for 15 or 20 years, and it's really getting bad. Now, we always planned to do it when we ran water and or the Cawley property. And but we're gonna have to spend some money come this summer, and I don't want to spend too much, so we got to think about what we're doing there. And then also Good Hope Road is pretty bad shape now that we found that all the fill underneath it, and understand why it's been breaking up. And I think after the water project, we're probably gonna have to do some temporary repairs on that thing, because with the quad axles on it and the loaders and everything.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, we'll see what it looks like in the spring, but we're gonna maybe have to spend a little money on that. When is the grant? Is that 28, 27, 28?
So it's unclear still when the project funding comes through, because they've got it fiscal year, I think it's fiscal year 28, 29.
Ooh, yeah.
But we don't know if that means you,
Get it?
but Ben thinks it might hit in 27. And for a 28 project,
So regardless,
It's
we
still-
got 2 or 3 years yet, so we're gonna have to do a little something there to preserve that.
yeah, we're gonna have to.
Okay, and then we've still got the Jake's parking lot at the park. We got quotes of over $100,000 for that to do it right. And so we gotta look at that. And then we have a new issue that's come up, which we'll discuss later, but we received the bids for the Whispering Ridge pump house and SCADA system. And we have some work to do there. But I believe we're gonna have a meeting in a day or two. Ben was telling me his hope, and we'll see what we can do there. Other than that, that's all I got.
All right, thank you very much. Corey, Don,
Nothing exciting.
still a big hole in the ground?
Well, I did, if you've never had the opportunity, I was at Monticelli's at noon on a Friday when they blasted that land and stone. That's pretty impressive.
Oh, yeah.
It shakes my whole building.
Oh, yeah, when you're on stone.
So
Yeah.
I will share that I had an opportunity today to Land and Stone Products has been implementing some safety procedures, and they're doing some emergency management drills, if you will. And so today I got an opportunity to hike over the berm from Marcy Road and pace along the high wall and pretend to be a jumper to see how long it was gonna take them to see me and then respond, and how they were gonna respond and come up and try to talk me off the ledge. So that was pretty fun,
Do they think you're a future prospect?
right? So it's good to know that they're doing those types of exercises though. All right, moving on, department reports, clerk's office.
So with one election done, the next spring election will be coming up in April. Nomination papers for that can start circulating on December 1st. They will be due back January 7th. When it gets closer to the end of the month, I'll have packets available in my office. The budget public hearing will be held on the 21st at 7. Well, we're a little late in the process. I'll need to get the levy numbers over to the county so we can get tax bills run, and out by December 15th. Utility checks will be deposited this week. We've been getting a lot of calls because they haven't cleared. They have been posted to WorkForce. They just are having, trouble with the remote deposit. So I'm going to just do a manual deposit and get those cashed this week. So if anybody's asking, they are all processed. We just need to get them deposited. I will be closing the office a little early tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure what time. I'm just gonna say noon to be. But I will hopefully be here a little bit longer, but I have another commitment tomorrow afternoon, so. Nicole is out for a few weeks, so it is just me, and so if you need something, please give me as much time as you can.
Okay.
Again.
Thank you, Brenda. Remember, December 1st, you can all get your nomination papers.
He's not a resident yet.
These guys are.
Oh, these guys are, yeah.
All right, B, police department.
The call summary was emailed out, nothing new there to report. We had our drug take back day. We collected over 30 pounds of various prescription medications. Those were turned over to Waukesha County. We rescheduled our CCW class that had been scheduled for this past Saturday. It's gonna be Sunday, the 17th at 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. here at Village Hall. It's $50 a person. I will be teaching that. So it's roughly 3 to 4 hours, give or take, depending how many participants we have. Another highlight for us, Officer Schweitzer throughout the year had done a couple charity rides with it is Police Lights of Christmas Outreach Program. So it's Ride with the Lights, and what they do at the end of the year, after the charity rides, all the donations that are received are distributed through the agencies that participated. So him and I will be going up to Green Bay on December 3rd to receive our donations, and those are in means of gift cards and bags for those who are in need within the community. So in 2023, there were 70 police departments involved, over $200,000 in gift cards were handed out in 1,000 backpacks containing socks, hats, gloves, things like that for families that may be in need within our community. So Officer Schweitzer and I will be doing that on the 3rd. And then Chief Bell and I will coordinate with whomever that may be to help distribute those items to any families that may need them.
Excellent.
Great.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Item number 8, citizens' comments. This is meant for public comments on any subject without any discussion by the Board of Trustee members or action except for possible referral to a governmental body or agency. Mr. Brandt, did you want to make any comments or?
I will,
Okay,
I can comment on.
you can comment on them. We're just not going to have an open discussion. Yeah, sure. Anything you want.
I just wanted to comment on item 13, no, 12, and approval of the ordinance. I did a bunch of research over the last month, and I understand what I read in the ordinance and such as that the village wants to have $100,000 line of credit or in cash. And in my research over the last month, I didn't find one municipality that looked at it that way. Every municipality is willing to take a bond. It's a little bit different when you are a homeowner and you want to do a project or something perhaps in your yard. But when you're a contractor, and you're doing something basically on a private property, not doing anything for, in essence, the municipality. I find it that, my personal opinion and my research, that $100,000 line of credit or cash is a little bit ridiculous. Yeah, and if I could even have found one municipality that does that, you know, it may have a little bit different opinion. But I guess that's my comment.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other citizen comments? Dan, nothing? All right. Item number 9, discussion and possible action regarding operator license for the dugout. These have all been okayed by you folks, man, it's just the one, it
I think
looks like.
there's just one, yeah, and Dan ran back.
I make a motion to approve the application for a license to serve fermented malt beverages and intoxicating liquors for Anika Ruiz. That name sounds familiar. Isn't that one that we approved before? No, must not be. All right, for Anika Ruiz, in accordance or per chief's recommendation.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, discussion and possible action acknowledging the remainder of the ARPA spending. So as you guys may know, we have until the end of this year to have these funds not only committed, but contractually obligated. These were funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. We had a committee of folks that helped kind of decide the direction of some of these initial expenditures. Some time ago, I'll call it the first tranche of spending was ratified by the board, if you will. We have, Colleen's been working diligently to try to allocate the remainder of the funds. We did have a large chunk of funds that we were going to use for, we had anticipated using for park items. But when we discovered that they have to be contractually obligated, there weren't any significant projects that we were at a point we could push forward on. So with that, I don't want to take all of Colleen's thunder, so I'll let her walk you through what she came up with.
Well, there's two lists in front of you. One was in the packet. You can ignore that one. Go to the one that's a double-sided piece of paper with some yellow highlighting on it. I went through and with the help of Brenda, who gave me spending reports over the last couple of years. And I think I really nailed it down. The only thing I want to point out is the BCI construction for $9,986. That was in the finance report for today, so that hasn't been paid yet, but I'm anticipating the finance committee to recommend that for payment. And then the other highlighted items are the 24,900 and some dollars that we spent for the police radios and the mobile radio. According to my accounting, as of now, there is only $4,352.02 left of those funds that need to either be contractually obligated or actually spent by the end of the year. It's a pretty small amount. I think we're gonna have maybe an ARPA committee meeting to see what else we should spend that on. Brenda got an estimate for a assist for the back door, not an a handicap assist, and it's over $6,000. So it would be up to us then if we wanted to put that onto it, if we wanted to use some general funds. And then we could make sure that we spent all the ARPA money that was on the table. And then maybe we've got a little bit in the budget under regular maintenance that we could add to it to get that door assist,
Sure.
which I think is nice to have, right?
We should.
And-
Aren't we required? By federal law, are we required?
I don't know that a door assist is considered ADA.
Gotta be accessible.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So it's an older building, might be able to be exempted or grandfathered from it.
Mhm.
New construction, you would certainly be required, but the ADA, American with Disability Act, but,
well, and I could,
I think that would be a great use of
Yeah.
the remainder.
the remainder.
Mhm. Yeah, because anything under 10 grand doesn't have to go out for competitive bid, although I always get multiple bids anyway. So we've got one that's at, what was that first one, Brenda? It was like $18,000, and then we got another one at 6. So I'll solicit at least one more to make sure that we are getting the best bang for our buck on that. With the board's approval, I'll just go ahead and investigate the door assist. And if you don't hear from me, we were able to complete that accounting for the ARPA funds then.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's a good use. It's investment in the building.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, that's all I have to report on. Does anybody have any questions on any of these? Really, the first page is mostly things that were done back in earlier in that first expenditure. And the second things were basically upgrades to this building. And a few other things that were on ARPA's original list.
What's the mobile radio for? Is that to replace one in the squad?
Yeah, Lieutenant Lang?
I believe that is for the motorcycle.
Yeah.
We do not have a radio on the motorcycle. So the only radio that the officer has is our portable radios.
Mhm.
That's a little difficult to try to drive a motorcycle and navigate the radio, I imagine. So the radio would be mounted on the motorcycle would be hands-free.
Right, and then the 4 additional ones they would use the 2 working ones that they have now as backups, and they would have 4 new that were all the same make and model and, compatibility, so that will.
In 6 grand I go through the village about 6 times a day. And that's a chunk of money because we only have 2 people that are certified to run the police bike. And that's, my opinion, that's kind of underused because it's only Nate and Chief.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
That, I don't remember the man who found it, but Nate got in. I think his class was $800, but for an officer to go through the MPD training was in the neighborhood of $5 grand.
Yeah, there's different ones out there that vary in cost depending on who you go through.
So you got lucky on that one with Nate.
Yeah.
But that is a chunk of money. That's not used a whole lot.
So how those two came up is I went to Chief Bell and I said, that ARPA funds would be eligible for police equipment. And, I said, what is your highest need? I mean, what is your wish list from what you feel is most important down? And he named those two things, along with a garage door opener, so they don't have to manually open their garage door to get the squad in and things like that. So, you know, that's where that originated from. I guess I didn't go through and realize it was for the police bike, but that was his radio wish list. So that's how that came to be. Now, both of those items have been ordered.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. And
Yes.
if we make a change with whether or not we have a motorcycle in the department or not in the future, you know, I'm sure there's a market for used one, you know. to
Yeah.
Sell it
Well,
on.
that's on lease.
What's that?
The police bike is on a.
Yeah, and it's pretty, it's only 2,000 a year, I guess. So that's pretty reasonable, but I even questioned the chief about, you know, do we really need a motorcycle? Is what the benefit and,
It's a great tool to have, but its use is limited
right,
because of who can ride the bike.
right.
And whether, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I just treated that expenditure as at the discretion of the chief, so I'm gonna defer to him on that one. All right, well, that is my ARPA report then. I would consider those funds committed then once we determine who and when we can get that back door under contract for a power assist. Thank you.
Hector, would you like us to acknowledge this by motion?
Yes, I recommend that a record be made of the approval of the list, so that if there's any audit after the fact, we have documentation.
Pauline, does that include the electrical and everything we don't have to have?
Yeah, that should be complete. I've got a few minor questions, but super minor questions, but I'm sure you're going to have to do some sort of accounting to Wendy, correct? So that we have that closed up.
I do it to the US Treasury. We have to do like
Okay.
quarterly reports to them with these funds. So at the end, we have to, she'll probably audit that as well. And then we also report
Right.
to US Treasury.
Right, because the only thing would be like that credit we received from Owl Labs and stuff. I just want to make sure I did that right,
Yeah.
but within a few dollars, this is the final
Right.
accounting. So if you want, I will make a motion to accept the accounting dated 11/11/24 for the conclusion of the ARPA funds in the 2024 budget year.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, discussion and possible action regarding the approval of pay application 1 for the water main extension on West Good Hope Road. And I believe, Jerry, you can probably speak to this, but I believe this was for
Application number 1.
yeah. Oh, yeah, this is the payout for the regular project,
Yeah.
not the change order.
Well, it's got that first change order in it, but that's only $2,000.
Yep, yep. Yep, so this is a pay application for the first portion of the project. As of last Thursday, I think they said they were at about 40% complete at the but I think, like you said, I think that's just the way their timeline works out. I think they're actually
Yeah,
more complete than that. so.
footage wise, they're doing good, yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the contractor's application for payment number 1 for the water main extension contract in the amount of $339,306.28.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any other discussion?
This was reviewed by Jerry and Ben, correct? Yeah, okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Strand always reviews the quantities
Yeah.
before they send these over.
And we have full-time inspection on the site.
Mhm.
So, and Strand's doing a nice job on that too.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? All those in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12, discussion and possible action regarding approval of the amendment of the rock crushing ordinance. Bless you, sir. As you all know, we've been through this a number of times here, and we made some additional comments at our last meeting. Mr. De La Mora has attempted to incorporate said changes into this latest version of the document. I believe we have a red line version in front of us and a red line version.
Yep. Dated 11/7.
Hector, do you want to make any comments on this document?
Well, I think in evaluating this, you have to understand the framework that we're working with here. Historically, and much to my surprise, I went back and reviewed some old files from Attorney Blum
Whoa.
who preceded me. And there was a great deal of concern in this community about quarrying operations, and that of course brought some blasting, but also a crushing of the product. So much so that the village had a standing committee that just focused on that specifically. And the way they attempted to deal with the challenge to accommodate the quarries and the workmen there was to confine the activities to the quarries.
Yeah.
And for a variety of reasons, noise, dust, so forth. And over time, particularly since I've been the village attorney, that kind of sensitivity about rock crushing or quarry operations has not manifested itself at the board level. So when the requests came in to be able to engage in rock crushing, we had no provision that allowed that activity to take place away from a quarry itself. So what I did was I went to the provisions, and to facilitate people being able to find the restrictions, if any, I reworked the existing sections. And in the section, we had a situation where a plan of operation was absolutely necessary. Well, we've encountered a situation where that condition is not attainable for reasons that may be irrelevant at this point. So we've added provisions for a temporary crushing permit, and the idea behind the drafting was to discourage this kind of activity in the community, not because of any lingering hostility towards this kind of activity, but in recognition of the fact that the village is being, over time, being transformed into a residential community, pretty much following its master plan of some 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And there is some tension in that. I took the message away from the last meeting that there was concern about possible contamination. Maybe not by any applicant that we may have immediately, but generally, there is a shortage of places in the metropolitan area which can be economically used for these kinds of activity. And my intent was to discourage as much of this as possible. And you reflected that by basically saying that no more than 2 terms of 30 days maximum would be acceptable in the discussion. And to accommodate the situation of being reasonable, I had inserted a $6,000 fee. And you basically went back to what really controls the quarries. And I've inserted the $500 fee here on line 93. Now, the letter of credit was pegged at that amount simply because in a situation where you have contamination, the sky's the limit, so to speak, in terms of what you have to do. First of all, where do you take the stuff once you identify that it is contaminated? And particularly in the situation where here we have a somewhat uncooperative property owner here, no fault of the applicant. And hence we did discuss the last time the rationale for not using bonds. My philosophy in drafting things for communities is not necessarily to mirror what other communities have, particularly in this community where we have a transformation taking place, but instead catered to the immediate and long-term needs of the community. So it is not troubling to me for anyone to do research and say this kind of provision doesn't exist elsewhere. And so be it. But you know, if you want some level of protection, if there is contamination, just like you requested that there be some paper trail with regard to the material brought in, that they somehow be tested, that there be a manifest to basically back up representation, because otherwise we get into a situation where potentially there may be some form of midnight dumping. And how does the village control or regulate that? So the final area where I made changes, but they weren't commented on previously, is that we have a standard fee of $50 a day for ordinance violations. And in this particular situation, I was concerned about the fact that maybe that might be considered the cost of doing business. So in lines 109 through 115, I inserted language that the minimum applicable forfeiture would be increased to $1,000 for the first offense, and each succeeding violation at the same site would be increased to double the amount which was imposed for the immediate prior violation. Each violation and each day a violation continues or occurs should constitute a separate offense. So those are my comments in general. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
So to understand the last point that you made, which is under item 9 here, 109 to 115, am I to understand that day 1 it's 1,000, day 2 it's 2,000, day 3 it's 4,000,
Right.
and so
There's a multiplier there.
And that's to push the issue so it doesn't linger.
Right.
That's what we found with our per diem.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Just out of curiosity, Mike, did you get a cost from your bank to issue a letter of credit for this amount? Did they give you a cost?
No, I was advised by our legal, my attorney. Don't do that. Absolutely don't do it. If you're willing to be, can said, put up a bond, it's not a problem. Say contractors just don't do that.
What it means for him is that that's $100,000 that he does not have access to during the time of crushing. You know, like they treat it like an uncashed check, you know?
Anything we do in the developers agreement though, right, Hector?
Yes.
Oh, we all have,
Yeah, every
No.
developer's agreement we've done
Letter of credit.
Yeah.
as a letter. of credit.
Quite a bit different situation.
Well, and in your,
Yeah, yours is only a couple of weeks. You said it's gonna take a couple of weeks to crush all
We
this.
should be able to crush it in a week or two, yes.
So
so
shouldn't have that big of an impact, really.
Would any of the board members wanna go and tie up a couple $100,000 or $100,000 for a couple weeks?
let me ask this question though.
Well,
Yes.
it's relative. I mean, I get it, but
What's the difference between a line of credit and a letter of credit? Because in your statements, you said that a line of credit or cash is not something that's done in other municipalities, but we're asking for a letter of credit. Is there a difference between a line of credit, which actually ties up that amount of money for that business owner, and a letter of credit, which would be similar to bonding? And I'm legitimately asking a question because I feel for you, but I'm wondering if there isn't a difference between a line of credit and a letter of credit. Is his organization solvent to cover that amount, or is he actually posting that amount?
from my understanding, and Hector can probably provide some clarification, is that a letter of credit generally has a cost associated with it, but it's basically the bank saying, yes, we're gonna,
Yeah.
if you don't meet the conditions of this agreement, we're going to present the claimant with X number of dollars. Right?
right.
Against that line.
Yeah, the difference between a line of credit and a letter of credit is that a line of credit typically is a phrase that is used to describe the ability of a particular business person to borrow money without going through a very
Underwriting.
complicated, time-consuming process to deal with a shipment of inventory or whatever. Whereas a letter of credit is something that is issued by a bank on literally a letter stationery that typically goes 2 pages in length, that basically says, we commit that in the event that there's a failure of performance on the part of the person for whom this letter of credit has been issued, upon presentment of this letter at our offices with a statement signed or notarized by the administrator of the community, we will turn over up to the amount of the letter of credit. Now, not everyone can get a letter of credit. Most banks are very selective about that, because what they're basically saying is this is a standby source of funds to be drawn upon with very little questions being asked. And so they typically want to have a banking relationship with the party for whom it's issued. And they do charge a fee, and the fee is calibrated to the kind of risk associated there. And it typically is for a limited period of time. Most banks are very reluctant to issue a letter of credit for a period longer than a year. That's why Brenda here, when she gets a letter of credit, notes the date, because typically the letters of credit say that if there hasn't been performance on the contract, typically for a development agreement, that it can be claimed but only up to the date of its expiration, so 30 days before the expiration date. We try in all of our communities to alert them to the fact that they've got to assess where they stand and make a move. In this particular situation, the amount, was inserted because it was included in the discussion and also because of the uncertainty. So if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Mhm.
If that's the case, then why does it say a letter of credit or cash
Right,
in the amount of?
some
So it's two
entities do have cash reserves. And
Okay.
I've seen situations where there have been cash
Yeah.
deposits.
But the difference is between crushing $6,000 to $10,000 worth of concrete that's in a pile versus doing a development that may be several millions of dollars to do, or just in putting the roads in the sewer and water correctly, could maybe be
Mhm.
$500,000.
I
So we're
think,
talking about a big difference.
I think
and-
it's tied not to the value of the rock you're crushing, but the cost of cleaning up something if it's contaminated.
Well,
Of what?
Well,
It's about the exposure to the village and our ability to collect the money in the event that you don't perform the way you're saying you're going to perform. And we talked about this at length on the phone, Mike. And I explained the
Well,
position.
then the pile will sit there forever, because I'm not giving you $100,000.
We're not asking for $100,000. We're asking for a letter of credit that, I don't know, might cost you
You just
$500.
said that in essence, if I don't do it properly, or there's contamination, and I literally crush all over the state.
Mhm.
At the 4 different municipalities, 4 different developers, 4 different GCs. And
Yeah,
I have a $5 million line of credit. With bonding, $250,000. Line that I use for my business, an additional $500,000
mhm.
line of credit that I use for backup for payroll and stuff. And you guys are asking me to give you $100,000 to tie up for 2 weeks to crush a lousy pile of concrete.
Mike, you're not,
Can I make a comment?
yes.
I think it's important that we recognize that in instructing me to put together this ordinance, the village is trying to accommodate you,
Appreciate that.
but I look at it not that this is about you, but this is about any other citizen who walks in and says, I want to do rock crushing, and it's not going to be in a quarry, and it's going to be in the village of Lannon. We need to protect the village from the next person that we don't know. This isn't a reflection of you. There is no question that you're good for it, but the reality is that what we do for you, we have to do for the next person that comes up to the counter and makes an application. So that's the logic behind that. And that's something that I didn't have an opportunity to discuss with your attorney, but that's basically the motivation for it, to protect the village, not from you, but from the unknown operator who can come in here and say, well, I don't own a rock crusher, but I have access to one, and I want to do this.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Is this, and we talked about this too, this is to go forward. We're making a change to our ordinances, and frankly, we've spent a significant amount of time trying to bend over backwards and accommodate you so that you could do this. Because we'd like it cleaned up too, right? Just as much as you would. But I just don't, and I don't mean any offense here, but you've basically just testified that you have all the means to provide what we're asking for. You just listed out all of your
I can
assets.
give you a bond tomorrow
Right.
morning.
Right, well, and
Letter of credit.
you could probably give us a letter of credit tomorrow morning too. But frankly, it seems like you're just being stubborn.
No, Patrick, that's not it at all. My attorney advised me, do not,
Okay.
do not.
Don't.
And that's your decision you have to make as a business owner, and I understand that. Fine.
My ignorance is gonna step in here, but is your rock crushing equipment mobile? You
Yes,
can move, okay,
yes.
if it's
It's on
mobile,
tracks.
okay,
We unload it off the low boy, we bring it up to the pile, we have a mobile. On tracks conveyor, it's all late model equipment, it's less than 2 years old.
then if that's the situation, why is it not being crushed at the site you take it from? Why is it being brought back
on
to-
occasion.
Why
Yes.
is it being brought back to Lannon to crush it? Why can't?
Why
it be
did I
crushed-
bring it back to my yard?
Why
Number
can't it
one,
be crushed at the site?
to build a pile, okay, so that we could use that material at the 2 sites. That was part of my agreement with the village when we bought that property. That I was gonna bring up the grade, we were going to get all of the mud cleaned up. And so it's still a shithole back behind everywhere. Okay, but to beautify everything, we already took and put crushed asphalt down in the front. And I trucked that in from another facility where we crushed, another job site, where we took and stripped the asphalt up, so that I would be in compliance with the village. I got the front part about 85% done, because I was within 2 years is what I was given to get all that stuff done. Okay, my mistake was, and I openly admitted this, all right? I should have brought it on that property
Right.
instead of that property,
Right.
okay? We're less than 3 blocks apart, okay? They crush literally 300 feet away from where I wanna crush this pile. Okay, and that material will all be used and utilized on those 2 properties.
But
To
again, if we
beautify
allow
everything.
we allow you to do that there and break these rules, then we're setting a precedent.
I understand that, but what about the developer, like right over here, Sawzall, that is bringing up rock and putting in fill so that he can put basements in those houses, okay? And they can't crush it there. And they could have utilized all that material. I worked with Steve Fisher to haul this stuff away.
They actually could crush it there. A developer is allowed to do that. That's the one
Then
exception.
what's it's private property. It's not,
It's,
I'm not gonna understand
I
it.
don't like it any more than you do. but-
Because I do it in municipalities all over this.
Yeah,
state.
but I think you do it for GCs. When you're crushing in municipalities
GC.
all over, okay, so,
I'm
so.
the GC,
So you're issuing bonds to the municipality or to the general contractor or
both.
both? Yeah,
If I'm crushing for a developer, if I'm crushing for a municipality,
yeah,
I just got done bidding a job up in home, I think it was. You know, it was a $500,000 crushing job. I missed it by $30,000. Somebody else got it. And so I don't understand this small amount. I do understand that it's about the future. But I just can't even believe that we're running through all of this time and discussion for 8 months.
I can't believe that we've done all the things that we've done to try to accommodate you and you're still arguing with us about it.
Patrick, all I wanna do is say, have the village to say, okay, Mike, go crush it. Go crush it.
You
It's done in a
can,
week.
you can, we just need a letter of credit. It's that simple.
$100,000 and you got it.
It's that simple. It's-
yeah, and
it's-
I'm still,
Average cost is $750 to $1,500 for a letter of credit in that amount.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I can crush over there.
Can you,
They already gave me permission to do that 2 years ago. So
Mike, can you
Right.
move it? Can you move it
Yeah.
from?
why would I wanna move
Can-
at the expense of about $10,000? Move that pile 3 blocks. No, I'll take that back. It's probably
Yeah, it's,
Quarter
6
mile.
blocks.
But once you crush it, you're gonna move it anyways.
Yes,
So why can't you move it before that? Bring it to your property and then crush it? Like I said, this is my ignorance coming through, but I'm just.
and I'm still gonna point out, and I don't know if this applies or not, but a line of credit and a letter of credit are two different things. And I really want you to go back to your attorney and say, they're not asking for a line of credit. They're asking for a letter of credit. And what that is your banker goes, yeah, I do business with this guy. I see how much money he's got in the bank. I see what his balance sheet is. He's good for it. And we'll stand behind him. I do think there's a difference. And Mike, I don't know if I'm wrong or if you just misspoke, but when you stood up
Yeah.
and you said you want a line of credit or cash, a letter of credit is something that is different, I believe. And I think you should double check that.
then Hector would have to, in the last meeting, correct himself, because he said with that letter of credit,
Mhm.
if that's what it's being called, he said that we don't want a bond because you have to go through litigation and so on and so forth.
Yep.
With the letter of credit, we can just go take the money.
Mhm.
That's correct.
We go to the bank, we present the letter and they present us the money.
Yeah, without no reason, rhyme, whatever. And my attorney said, no, no.
That is not how it works.
No, they're gonna
We don't
different
get to just take your letter of credit and go, oh, we tricked them into that one and go down to the bank and grab your money. Well, first of all, we have no interest in doing that. I mean, we've used letters of credit as instruments in this village, like I said,
Why is it okay to crush there
Forever.
but not over there?
Zoning.
zoning, but we did grant
It's
a
not his
special, well,
Wouldn't you rather have them crushed there? and not zoned downtown?
again, to try to accommodate Mr. Brandt's request and help him perform his operations in the village, we actually issued a special use permit for that tax key or that property, or there's a number
Because
of
he
tax
owns that
keys
one,
there.
he doesn't own this one, and there's
Right.
no plan of operation for this one, and it's not his fault that there's not a plan of operation, it's the owner, so that's why we had done what we did to make him the owner of record where the crushing was happening. Ugh.
I'm not saying
Well,
it's not a difficult situation, and I'm not trying to make this difficult.
Mhm.
I just want to crush the pile,
We're
move
not either.
forward and be done with it. And if you folks would like to take and have that ordinance in for the future, that nobody can ever crush here except in a quarry, so be it. I won't bring a damn, not one piece of concrete in this town ever again.
Good.
Ridiculous.
Well, do we have any other comments from the board? Do we have a motion that anybody would like to make?
Well, just regarding the,
It's fine.
yeah, I mean, it incorporates everything we had talked about.
Yeah, I think we've given up
Okay.
an awful lot of
Yeah.
ground from where we started, as it is.
I'll make a motion then to accept the ordinance amending section 18-136 and 18-140 of the Village of Lannon, establishing a limited crushing permit as presented by council.
I will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I just have. I have to apologize. There's a typo on line 49. The sixth word should be to instead of do, instead of by, by.
So writing from the property owner to the operator,
Right.
Yes.
to.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right.
Item number 13, discussion of possible action regarding the crushing permit for HM Brown. So it looks like we do have an application here, so everything is in order here, Brenda, with the outstanding matter of the letter of credit, I assume. So I suppose what we could do, can we conditionally approve this on presentation of a letter
Yeah.
of credit in the amount of $100,000?
Yes. If I could comment, our existing ordinance required the submission of an application 60 days prior. In your earlier discussion, you said that an application shouldn't be submitted that far in advance, but maybe only 45 days. However, since Mr. Brandt has submitted an application, I added language on line 33 and 35 that says, reading back in the sentence, filed with the village clerk at least 45 days prior to the licensing period. Although the village board can shorten or waive the length of the prior filing on a case-by-case basis.
Mhm.
So, my recommendation would be that a motion to approve the application should include a waiver of the prior filing because of the extended discussions that the village board has had with Mr. Brandt,
Mhm.
and that he comply with all of the provisions of the newly enacted ordinance, not just a letter of credit.
All right.
For your information, I did have a conversation with Mr. Brandt's attorney.
Mhm.
He sent me a letter asking that I send him a copy of this draft, and I did do so.
Thank you.
All right, well, I will make a motion to conditionally approve the application for blasting and rock crushing for HM Brandt, conditioned upon the issuance of a letter of credit from his financial institution in the amount of $100,000. And noticing that under the amended ordinance 18-136 and 18-140, that we are moving to shorten or waive the length of the prior filing.
Yeah.
In this case, based on the date that this is executed, the 3rd day of June, 2024.
I'll
I
second.
second.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we got a motion, a couple seconds, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item 14, discussion of possible action regarding the agreement of water service interconnect with the village of Sussex.
Ben said we could table that.
You did?
Yeah, I talked to him this afternoon. He
Yeah.
said he had nothing new.
Okay. Well, we could just give a brief well, actually, there isn't even really, you already gave an update on this.
Right.
Status, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to,
I'll make that motion to table.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to table item number 14. Item number 15, discussion of possible action on payment of the bills.
I will make a motion that we pay the bills as presented by Brenda earlier this evening.
Go ahead.
And I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 16, engineers report. Ben is not here. 17, attorney's report.
None.
Nothing at this time. Item 18, I will keep mine brief. Yeah. couple items have already been covered. I guess the only other thing that I wanted to comment on was the referendum, as I'm sure you all know by now, did not was not successful. So we did get a good turnout, as we expected, being a presidential election, so that was good. So I guess if you have thoughts on whether or not we rethink that strategy or the whole idea, or want to bring something back at a later time, I would certainly be willing to have those discussions, but for now, we move forward and do the best we can.
I thought it was enlightening that on social media, I saw Amy Martin's post and that some residents piped up and didn't seem to really understand what the referendum was about in hindsight. And then, when it was explained, they were like, oh, well, we may have voted differently. So I think we just need to, I would like to encourage everybody to become more involved in the things that we've been trying to put in place, like Zoom meetings. Tonight, on this meeting, we have 2 attendees, and one of them is a Village of Lannon board member. So people are not showing up to the meetings. People are not signing up for Civic Plus. I just think we need to. The referendum was defeated. However, the situation we find ourselves in has not changed one iota, which means we should probably continue to push for the funding that we need to run the village to the standards that the citizens have become accustomed or would like to have, the services they'd like to have. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have no increase in taxes and then, police on every corner every time a speeder goes by. So
Yeah, I think we're gonna, unfortunately, that's the positions that we're gonna be in. We're never gonna win every side of the argument, right?
right.
So I'd like to suggest that we do a borrowing. That's the one benefit we got with all the new construction is asset value. And before we were always in a bind where we couldn't because we didn't have the asset value, but now that we do. And we're gonna need to borrow some money, like I mentioned, for some of this infrastructure stuff anyways.
Yeah.
So I think that's something we should discuss.
It's something we can certainly look at going forward. I think I would discourage us from looking at borrowing for ongoing expenses, one-time expenditures, capital expenditures, things like that, I think make a little more sense. But you're right, that was part of the problem when I first got on this board was we didn't have any borrowing capacity because of our value and our existing debt.
Yeah.
And we have remedied that many fold
Yes.
over.
Yeah.
We have quite a bit more flexibility now. So that is an option for us to think about, and I would like us to start the budget discussions a little bit earlier next year. So we can get out ahead of some of these types of things and have some meaningful discussions about how we can work through them or what things we may or may not need. I am going to a meeting on Wednesday with the police chief at the Lake Country Courthouse to hear about what options they might be able to provide for a municipal court. So I think we should all, as trustees, continue to look for ways or things that we can make more efficient, streamline, do without, improve upon. That's gonna be the environment that we're gonna be living in for a while, I think.
Mhm.
So,
Patrick, are we thinking about putting this on the April bill ballot? Sorry.
I don't know. I think, if you'll recall, Tina, I was concerned about the timing of going on the November ballot. I understand why some of the board members felt that it was important to be on that ballot. I think Colleen has brought up a point that's been an issue of concern for me. Is how do we connect with the residents more effectively? I don't have an answer for that. But it's crazy to me because we have these devices in our faces every day, yet we can't seem to connect to people through them. So I think it's gonna take a much longer, and maybe more boots on the ground effort to, make people aware and educate them of what we were trying to do and why. I think a lot of what we were trying to do, frankly, just got lost in a bunch of presidential election noise and junk mail that people were trying to tune out as much as possible because they were sick of it. So I understand why a lot of people probably didn't even know it was gonna be on the ballot. They probably flipped it over and said, what the hell is this?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
I have a motion.
Second.
Second,
To adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for coming tonight.
If anyone in here that is a veteran, it is Veterans Day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks. Jen.
Hi, how you doing? Here, let me just turn this off.